Okay. This is a video kind of just as a way for anyone who wants to look back at what we did a couple weeks ago, or anyone who wasn't there. I'm going to be walking through basically the exact same process that we did. God, I forget which week we did it, but the first section of the cup that we modeled. So the first thing you're gonna do is obviously log on to Onshape. Um, you can do that just by Googling Onshape. And then you'll click sign in, and then you will type in your information. Mine logs in automatically because I use it frequently. The second thing you're going to do is you're going to go up here to the create. Let me explain something first. Down in the bottom left, I have an input display. It'll show exactly what I type and what I type on my keyboard and what I click on my mouse. Look at that if you ever get lost in the instructions. Um, Okay, moving on from that. Once you click create, um, once you click create, select create document, and then we're gonna name it. Whenever you name it, just call it something like cup. Um, you want to name things obviously, like you want to name them things you will recognize. You don't want like silly random names. It's not helpful. Um, but once you do that, you're just gonna click create, and then it'll immediately load you into the workspace. The first thing that I'm gonna do is actually change my workspace units because I have them defaulted to millimeters. You don't have to do this. Yours is going to default to inches. Um, I tend to like prefer working in millimeters. It's just a personal preference. But there's nothing like exactly wrong with working in inches. So we're just gonna do it because it's easier. Okay. Now that I have that sorted, first thing that we're going to do is up here, where I'm circling with my mouse. These are the different planes that we have. Um, and whenever we click one of them, then we can use it to make a sketch. Um, Sketches are important because they let us take a 2D shape and make it into a 3D shape. But right now, these two, the front and the right plane, are kind of in the way. They kind of clutter the visual of the workspace. So what we're gonna do is we're just going to hide them. To do that, you hover over them, and you'll see this eye pop up. Now, you can just left click on that eye, and it will hide the plane. And if you ever want to see it again, you can click it again. It's very simple. Okay, now that we have that, we're going to left click on the plane to select it. Let me explain that again. Um, so anyone who was here a couple weeks ago probably already like is a bit more familiar with the controls if they've used this program anymore. But for those of you who weren't here, um, the basic controls of Onshape are left click. You should see that lighting up on my input display right now. That lets you select different things. So if I click on this, it highlights it orange. That means I've selected it. Same thing over here. If I select these, they'll be highlighted orange. And same thing with these tools up here. Um, the second most important control is right click. Um, Right click if you're not hovering over an object lets you turn the workspace. Very useful. Um, it lets you view your object from a different perspective and get to access certain parts of it that you couldn't if you weren't turning it. And it's more convenient than turning the cube is. So that's convenient. And then the secondary function of right click is to um like let's say I want to edit something, I want to rename something, right click lets me do that. So you can see if I right click on this element instead of left clicking on it, it pulls up a different menu that lets me do different things with this. It'll be very important. We'll be doing that a lot. Okay. Now to start with the actual. Oh, sorry. Um, the third control that you have on your mouse is middle click. Middle click is I use it frequently, but you might not. It's it's nice to be able to move. It's useful for just like looking at your part from different directions. So what does middle click do? When you press it down, it lets you drag your workspace around. So notice how right click spins it, middle click moves it side to side without spinning it. So both are very useful. And another thing it does is if you scroll it down, it zooms out, and if you scroll it forward, it zooms in. That's pretty useful, but yeah, they're all the controls are very useful. Okay, let's get started then. First thing we're gonna do: left click the top plane. It should be the only plane that you have visible right now. Um, because you hid these other two planes. Once you have it selected, you're going to come up here to the top left, and you're going to press this button that says Sketch with left click. That will bring you into a new menu where you have a bunch of tools that let you draw. So, um, I will probably make a video elaborating on all of these tools, because they all serve a different purpose, but how to use them isn't exactly obvious at a glance. Like this one, inscribed polygon. It just says that it makes an inscribed polygon. Um, and I do not think that most of you students know what that is. So I think it would be useful to teach that to you guys. So I will probably be making a video maybe tomorrow, maybe next week, um, like showing you how all of these tools work, and also these as well, because they are very useful. But anyways, first thing we're gonna do, select the circle tool up here. It's the third one from the left. You're gonna click on it with left click, and then you'll notice that your cursor changes. So let me rewind. So also, if you're ever in a tool and you want to get out of it, press the top left button on your computer. It's called Escape, and it will take you out of it. Okay. So look at my cursor right now. You'll notice how it's pretty much the exact same as a normal mouse cursor. I can click on like a normal mouse cursor that you would typically navigate a computer with. Once I click on a tool, though, you'll notice that once I leave the toolbar, it becomes like this crosshair. Um, that will basically tell you whenever you're in a tool. So if you're not actively using a tool, it'll be the normal one. If you are actively using a tool, it'll change to this crosshair type thing. And that's useful because sometimes you will make a shape and um, you will want to immediately like select it to do things with it. And you can't select with this crosshair. It'll just use the tool again. Um, and we want to avoid doing that because then we just have more stuff like on the screen. Anyways, so something that we talked about in the club is snaps. So I went over in the presentation. I'm gonna go over it again for the sake of it's called posterity. Posterity basically means for like people who will be watching this video afterwards, just in case they need it. That's what posterity means. Um, anyways, so snaps are extremely useful. Um, they appear whenever you're using any of these drawing tools up here. What they do is, let's say I get close to this, you'll notice that there's this like point in the center. That's called the origin. It's basically like the exact center of the workspace. And what this orange line does is you'll notice that my like the center of that like cross is not perfectly in line with that line. If that makes any sense. It can be a little bit above or a little bit below, and the line will still appear. And because the line is there, that means that if I were to place the first point of the circle right now, it would be perfectly in line with the origin. So, similarly, if I get close to the origin and then hover over it, you'll notice that there's this orange box around it. So let me show you that again. you'll see the line, and the dot is highlighted orange. And as I get really close, boom, box. That means that whatever point I place will be directly over another point. Um, this snap is going to be really important. It lets us line up certain things properly. It prevents us from misaligning certain things. Like, let's say you want to have like a lid that you have to screw on to something else. You want all of the holes for the holes for the screws to be in line with the other part. So you would use snaps for that so that the holes are directly over the other holes, if that makes any sense. Anyways, enough rambling. We're going to hover over this with the circle tool until it gets that orange box, and then we're going to click. And you'll notice that the center of the circle is directly over the origin. And that's personal preference. Technically, you don't have to put it over the center, over the origin. But it just looks nicer in the final workspace to do that. And it's not really helpful not to. Okay. So now that we've placed our first point, the center of the circle, now we have to actually place the outside. Um, we're gonna do something similar. We're just gonna left click again. And you'll notice I didn't go over this in the club, but you'll notice that there's this pop up right here once you click. Um, when I was showing you guys during the club, I just told you to press escape because I wanted to talk about this tool. This tool is still important. This tool is very important. Um, but if you just click, it'll automatically bring up a place to type the size of your of whatever you're making. So sometimes size will be length, sometimes size will be an angle. In this case, size is something called diameter. So for a circle, we have a couple different ways to measure it, and one of the main ways is diameter. Um, I will um, I will type a number for the diameter. Let's just go with 2.5 inches. Um, and now you can see what it is. So you see these arrows going from one side of the circle to the other, and also through the center. That's the diameter. It's basically how wide a circle is. It's a very important measurement in whenever you're making anything. Um, it's generally the way we go about measuring like pipes or screws. Maybe yeah, screws. Um, any like rod that you need to make something. Diameter is a very important measurement. And it's the main way that we'll be typing the size of our circles in this program. Okay, once you have your sketch done, we need to do something very important. We need to rename our sketch. So something very important is that we name everything. I talked about this in the club. Um, I probably could show you an example of a model that I have where I forgot to name things that is really hard to navigate. It's not fun. It's very tedious to have to click through certain things and see like, okay, what's this? What's this? Oh, I finally found exactly what I need. And then you have to do that for everything, and it massively lengthens the amount of time that you have to spend working on something, which you don't want because obviously you don't have infinite time to do most things. And the faster that you can edit your part, the more you can do with it, essentially. Like if you have to spend most of your time just navigating through all the menus, then you get to spend less time actually designing it. And like making it better and changing things that actually matter instead of having to fight the program. Um, Anyways, we're just gonna name this something like base, BASE. That's typically what I name my first sketch. It's really like simple way to like label like, hey, this is the thing this is the thing this is the point where I started. And then once we do that, we're just gonna click this green check mark right here. That's how you'll finish most things in Onshape. Give me a second to take a sip of water. Okay. Okay. Um, Now that we have our first sketch, we're going to take this 2D sketch and turn it into a 3D object. So the way we do that, again, we left click to select the object. One thing to note is that if you don't want to click this part, this is the outside of the circle. If you try to make this 3D, it won't really work. Um, that's because you're trying, like, you want to actually get the part that's inside, what we call the area of the circle. Once you do that, you're going to come up, again, select it with left click. Once you do that, come up here, right next to the sketch button, you'll see a button that says extrude. Now what extrude does is takes that 2D shape and raises it upwards into a 3D shape. And you'll notice again that you notice also that in this menu right here, that there's a place to type in the exact size that you want for the extrusion. That size is from here to here. It's just the height. We're gonna go with something like 3 inches. I think that's good. These measurements don't really matter because we're not actually going to be printing this part. But as we get into making more complex parts, size will matter quite a bit. And the size you make things is going to be something that I go over during this week of the club, because I want to teach you guys about how you design things, not just how to model them. Because modeling is it's something you can figure out just through YouTube, but designing is a bit more involved. So I would like to be able to sit down and teach you guys that. Okay, but once we do that, we're going to, again, click on this pencil right here to rename it. We're just going to call this main body. That's what I usually call the first extrusion. It's just a really, like, easy, convenient, descriptive name for it. Again, you'll notice that these things are, like, actually telling me what these, like, different operations are. So if I look at this at one glance, I know that's the first sketch. That's the one I used to, like, base everything off of. Oh, if I call this main body, oh, that's like the actual, like, cut part of the cup. Yeah, and it's good to name things. Okay, now we're gonna click check again, and you'll see that now we have a 3D object. Woohoo! But you'll notice that this doesn't look like a cup. This kind of just looks like a cylinder. So we need to hollow it out somehow. So the way we do that is by using this thing called the shell tool. What the shell tool does is you select a face. A face is like a 2D surface on a 3D object. So this would be a face of the object. This would also technically be a face of the object, kind of, but we're not usually gonna select like curved faces of 3D objects. Okay, but we're gonna select this, and then we're gonna select the shell tool. What the shell tool does is it takes a specified wall thickness, which is right here, and it hollows out everything that is not that for the cup. It's a really useful tool for, like, I used it in my combat robot to hollow out the inside so I could put in the parts. It's useful for if you need to, like, most things you don't want to make entirely solid because it wastes a bunch of material. So it's useful for, like, if you need to, like, scoop out the inside of something while keeping certain parts, so that you can, save on material, save on cost. Yeah, that's mainly what it's used for. It's used for hollowing things out. It's used for making shells, kind of like its name. I believe in the club that we used a thickness of 0.25, and that was a little bit thick, admittedly. So we'll probably not go with that here. I think right now 0.1 looks fine. Again, these measurements don't really matter. I'm just trying to teach you what the tools do. Okay. Once we do that, remember that we're renaming everything. So we'll call this inside of the cup. Um, Remember, you want your names to be descriptive. So if you're naming something, try to think, okay, I want to know what this is just by reading it, and then go from there. Okay, and then we're gonna click the check mark. Okay, so you'll notice that this is already looking like a cup. Like if you showed this to someone and be like, and you said, what is this? You might get bucket, you might get trash can, but usually you just get cup. Um, um, but we are gonna do a few more things to it to make it into like an actual mug instead of just like a cylinder that doesn't have an inside. So the first thing we're gonna do is actually is use a new tool called a fillet. What a fillet basically just rounds the edge of something. So you'll notice that if you look at a lot of things, like in your house or just like around any building, their edges aren't perfect corners. So like if you look at this, you'll notice that yeah, that's a perfect corner. That would actually be if we manufactured it to this specific shape, it would be sharp. It would cut you. And like typically, you don't want to cut yourself on random objects. So you'll notice if you look at most stuff, if you look at phones, if you look at a desk, if you look at like even like a doorknob that's like rectangular, you'll notice that the corners aren't perfect corners. They usually have like either like a little piece like a flat part shaved off the corner, or the corners are rounded. And that's partially because of the way they're made, and mostly because you don't want sharp objects typically. Sharp corners break. Sharp corners can cut you if something is made out of metal. Um, they can get damaged when you're shipping something from one place to another. So, um, typically you want to avoid those. Um, that's basically why we fillet stuff. And also because usually it looks nice. Um, but I haven't actually described what the tool does. So what the fillet tool does is it basically takes this corner and draws a circle to round it off. I don't know if it's coming across very well what I'm trying to convey, but I'll just show you with the tool. So the way the fillet tool works is we select an edge instead of a face. You can select a face actually with the fillet tool, and it'll just apply the tool to every edge that is touching that face. Um, but we're not gonna do that. We're gonna select just the outside edge, and you'll see that it rounds it. We could stop here, but this inside lip is still sharp. So we do actually want to round that too. But if we do that, you'll see that we get this like weird purple ring. Um, this is basically Onshape telling you that you've messed up, that you've made something that is impossible. And it it's basically telling you, hey, you need to change something. So you'll notice that this is highlighted red. It's basically telling you, hey, when you did this it messed up the tool. The reason it happened here is because you'll see that this measurement, 0.1, is the same as our wall thickness. And this measurement is telling the tool what the radius of hang on, what the radius of this is. So if I can um basically this from here to here is the entire thickness of the wall of the cup. And so if we try to do the same thing on the other side, it can't, because there's not enough material to be edited, if that makes any sense. Okay. So we just need to reduce the size of the fillet. Um, the easiest way is to just divide this one by 2 if you want to have like a perfectly circular like surface. So 1.1 divided by 2 is 0.05. We just type that here. you'll notice that I don't actually have to type in the unit. I don't have to type in inches, 0.05 inches. That's because it autofills for me. So if I just click out of it, or if I press enter, it'll do it. And we just select this. Now we have a rounded upper lip. And then we can do that on the bottom as well to just make it look a little bit nicer. Good. But that basically goes over. Oh wait. Forgot something important. I have to name this. So fillets for cup edges. Okay, that basically goes over everything that we did in the club 2 weeks ago. So that'll be the end of this video. And I think I will make another one to show you guys some more of the tools that we didn't get to.